morning. My name is Len Wooten, and I'm here with the MINA organization. I was asked by a good friend of mine, Leslie, or actually wonderful person, Leslie, to try to bring and highlight to you what the expungement event fairs are all about. So I'm just going to kind of show you a little bit of presentation based on what I have. So let me just share my screen with you real quick here.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Let me let you do that. There you go. You should be able to share.
there we go. And
Love that.
okay, so the expungement event information, this is our basic information session, is actually given by the name of a group called Clean Slate for Michigan, who really helps a lot of the post actions of those that have alleged criminal records to get their records expunged. It's actually a wonderful event. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Len Wooten. I've done about 6 events or 7 events completed to date. I've been a notary since 2012. I do general notary as well as loan signing, and I am commissioned in Oakland County. So to talk a little bit about the expungement event days and the hours, if you want to really know about expungement events, you just go to the Google and put in expungement fair for Michigan, and they normally have their events on Fridays and Saturdays. The working shifts that they normally have is from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. of 2 hours. There's another 2 hour shift that goes from 2 to 4. And then, of course, if you want to do the all day event, which you can go from 12 o'clock p.m. to 4 o'clock p.m., which is what I normally do because I just want to give the whole day to those as a volunteer. Just also let you know that at these events, if you want to bring a lunch, then you can, but they do have snacks and refreshments, which you could utilize as well, that they also pass off to those that are coming to the event. The event itself consists of participants such as the volunteers, the attorneys, some legal aides, the notaries, which are like myself to notarize, and then you have the Michigan State Police there who is there to do the fingerprinting. And the greatest thing about it is that it's all totally free. So relative to us, notary agent requirements. So what we need as notary agents is you need your notary stamp, not the embosser though. A black or blue ink pen, so you can sign in either one of those. Your notary journal, because you want to make sure that everybody who comes in, they fill out the journal. So when you have your clients come to you, you want to have them fill that journal out. It's very important you do that. You want to have the ability to give the proper oath. So you need to understand what type of oath you need to give on the documents. And I'm going to show you the document a little bit later in the package. Also, in the package, when you receive it, normally you receive your okay to proceed or whatever it is from the safe and just people roughly about a week in advance. And what I do is I take out the area that we have to have, and I'll show you that for notarizing, and I practice with the forms. And I mean, I practice. I don't care how many times I do this, I still practice. I may run off 10 to 15 forms, and I'll practice on how to put that stamp on. The next thing is you need to be punctual. Now, you know, people are coming in, they really need this assistance. Um, so we want to be there and be able to help them. So you want to be punctual and you want to be attentive. And I'm just going to let you know, I've been to a couple of meetings, or a couple of these expungements, where sometimes a notary will say, well, it's not that crowded right now, so I think I'm going to leave a little bit early. I would suggest that you don't do that. Give them the full time that they need in order to get this process done for them because it's very critical for them. They've been there all day, longer than you have, some of them. And you just want to make sure that you give them what they need. So the form that's really interesting to us is called the application to set aside convictions. When you get the package in the email, it's going to have about 4 or 5 different packages, but the only one you're really concerned about is the application to set aside convictions. And as I'm doing the notarizations, one thing that I do is I try to look at the information a little bit, but not a lot, because our job is really to just make sure that the signer is who they are. but I try to make sure that at least there's a case number at the top, and then down in this box here where it says defendant's name, that the address should be complete with the name and the address. This is the form that you will be filling out for the set aside of convictions. On the left-hand side of this, there's one form, and on the right-hand side, there's another. So on the left-hand side, what I'm trying to illustrate to you is you've got all these different boxes and areas. I just kind of peruse through the form to just make sure one of those boxes are filled out because of the fact that if you're going to notarize, you don't want to notarize a blank document. So you just want to make sure that the document has whatever information. And if it's empty, I'll just have the person to kind of go back to the attorney and make sure that that's what they wanted. At the bottom of the form, I had the stamp location where you stamp, you could put your stamp actually. And I'm showing this to be that the left side of my stamp, and I'll show you what my stamp looks like, is between the G and the N, and then the lower portion of that stamp is right along the line of the acting in the county of. The acting of the county of is where your location is. That's where you're planted. And the place on the other line next to that where it says county of, that's your place of commission. So that's where you're commissioned. And then the rest of the form is pretty self-explanatory as far as the applicant's signature and things of that nature. On the right side, what I'm trying to illustrate to you is once you've placed your stamp should really be clean. So I try to place my stamp so there's no lines through any of the stamp itself, and it's pretty clean as it goes through because these are court documents. And the other thing I want to emphasize is um, the reason why you want to practice with these exams is because they are court documents. You don't want to mess them up and have the person have to go back through the attorney. So you want to be able to hit and get the first time you go through it. So right here just shows you actually when I place my stamp, this is how it comes out. So you can see how it's real clear, pretty much through the line there above the the county of Oakland. And I just kind of drew a line through that only because that's my stamp. And then you fill out the rest of the application. And on this left-hand side here, I just kind of place what my particular stamp looks like. So I have the Trodet. It may be different if you have a larger stamp, but that's the reason why you need to practice. So you need to practice with whatever that larger stamp or whatever your stamp is to make sure you get a good clean stamp. And then just want to kind of go through some concerns that I see. So I've had clients come to me that have identification on the cell phone. Me, myself, I don't notarize that because normally I don't think in the state of Michigan, from what I've seen and what I've looked through the laws, that you're able to notarize based off of a license on a cell phone. So
That is correct. That's
so,
not legal here yet.
so I just ask them to kind of, try to find whatever they can. I ask them if they can, they could go back to their home. Um, the interesting and great thing about this is that it's a process up to a point. So they still have to go through the court system to finish it off. So if they can't complete it with you, they can go to their bank. They can find a friend of theirs that's a notary or something like that to help them get through the process. Earlier, I showed you where the address on the form is. For the set aside, I've had where the address on the form does not match the address on the identification. So that's one of the things that, you have to kind of, as a notary, you know that these people aren't really coming in to cheat the system, but you still got to be careful. So what I normally do is I look at the names, and I may ask for just another piece of information, but I look at the names, and my job is to make sure that the ID is correct, the name on the ID is correct, the ID is valid. They swear to the signature of the document, so whatever's in the document, they've already sworn to it. So that's how I kind of base that. You will see multiple state identifications. I saw a lot of these in the last one that I did. What I do personally, I pull out my phone, I will Google the state identification for whatever that driver's license is. I just want to take a look and make sure that the structure is set up appropriately to what the ID is that is in Google. Some clients may come to you, and I've had this happen a lot at the last one too. You know how sometimes you go to the Secretary of State and they'll give you a new address sticker to put on the back of your ID?
Yeah.
They'll come in and they'll say, you know what, I threw it away, or you know what, I don't have it. So what I do for those, again, I look at the ID, I look at the fact that it's not expired, so it's unexpired. That's number one. I look at their signature, I compare that signature to the signature in the book. So I do a lot of cross-referencing. And then what I do is I will copy down the signature, the address that they have, which is normally the same one they have on the set aside document, but I will notate on my page that they didn't have the sticker, and I will notate on my page the address that was on the license that they had.
Are you talking about the page in your journal?
The page in my journal. Yes, I am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I have
Okay.
the page in the journal. I apologize.
That's okay.
So, so you will see driver's licenses being expired. For those, I just ask them if they have another form of ID. If they don't, I will send them either back to the attorneys or I will refer them to the attorney there. His name is Kamal Sandiford. And normally he will try to work with where to go with those. But yeah, I just kind of let them know, based on me, based on my legal abilities to notarize, I'm not able to notarize that document. Again, they can go to their friend, but still, who's ever a notary should be looking for an unexpired driver's license. And
Okay.
then you have some that have no physical driver's license, and they just have the temporary paper ID.
Mhm.
For those, I normally refer those also back to, again, the attorneys, or I will tell them if you have a friend that's a notary, please go see them, or you could take your documents and go to the bank. So those are basically the expungement in a nutshell.
So it's right above there. Okay, is that what you're
So
looking?
here we go.
Okay, okay,
I
cool.
apologize for that.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, so here we go. So you will get this here in the format of the email that you received. It will show you the pre-registration, the walk-in, and it kind of gives you a little information. So here's like the iChat. Just for those who want to know, we don't do anything with the iChat. The iChat is basically just a system that allows a search of the criminal history by the Michigan State Police. So the attorneys really look at that, and probably the MSP looks at that as they go through the fingerprinting process. You'll have your volunteer attorney stations and how they're set up, and they'll set up the environment accordingly to this. For you, it's just a walk in. They will show you, tell you what notaries by name will be at the different stations, what times they will be there. So, you'll know exactly what time to be there and who you'll be working side by side with. And then, of course, there's the fingerprint station. After you finish the notarization, you'll send them over to fingerprinting, where the Michigan State Police staff will fingerprint their documents. And then from there, they have a checkout station, basically, where they have resources there, which is normally sometimes like the Lakeshore staff, the legal aid staff, to be able to just help them get checked out and tell them where they're going to go and the post proceedings from there that they need to follow. Okay, there we go.
And if you'll go back to where you put your stamp.
Yes, right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I have a question about stamp placement and signing. So when I download, so I've never done an expungement fair, but I downloaded the paperwork because I
Mhm.
wanted to be familiar.
Okay.
And I did not put my stamp where you did, but so when I put it on, I put it underneath subscribed and sworn before me. So if you go back or forward, one of the pages shows the whole
Hmm.
thing there.
You put it in
Okay.
here.
So I
Yeah.
put it in there and I lined it up really well, but it was a little bit over the words.
Mhm.
So I like where you put it, but you put it on the line. So are you saying we're going to stamp all the way over to the right-hand side and then we're going to sign it to
Yes, I sign it
the
right to
left
the
side?
left-hand side of that.
Okay, so we're
Yeah,
sending
I
left.
sign it right here. I put my
Yep.
signature right here, and
Okay.
then I print my name right there.
I love that. I love that so much. It makes so much more sense than what I did. Thank you.
Hmm.
They're also, the Michigan Notary Association does sell mini stamps. The
Okay.
one that I used was not a mini stamp and it kind of fit. And then when you showed that, I stamped it again and it fit absolutely beautifully. So
Okay.
a mini stamp might not be required now that we know where we should stamp. So thank you for that.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. Okay. It just makes so much sense. Okay. And then let me see if I have anything else. What kind of facility is this held in?
So let me explain to you the process. And I only know this now because I'm trying to set this up now with our church.
Okay.
Um, you the
Do you want to
host,
stop sharing for a minute?
sure.
Okay. Okay, great.
So the host finds the facility,
The
which is the
host.
space.
Okay, all
And
right.
then Clean Slate provides the attorneys, the notaries, which you've been in contact with Kamal. Um,
Yes,
yeah. So they provide that, the attorneys, the legal aides, um, the hosts and themselves provide the volunteers. They provide the refreshments. Actually, the last signing I had was a good one because they provided hot dogs.
wow.
And then Joanne Penn, I think the one she had prior to me, they provided, I think it was a legal aid service or whatever. They provided $50 gift cards to the clientele that were coming in to get their stuff expunged.
So really anybody can set these up.
Yes,
Anybody.
anybody can set them up. You just have
I
to
love
find a
it.
big enough space to be able to do so.
How many people do you think can go through there in the 4 hours that you're doing that?
Uh, well, I could say over over 100 because what they
100.
do, Leslie, is that um, a lot of people pre-register,
Okay,
and when they pre-register and then they fill out the iChat, which gives the attorneys a chance to go in and take a look at the records before they get there.
got it.
And then you have a lot of walk-ins that come in that
Oh,
basically, they fill out the iChat when they get there because the attorneys already have their laptops, at the
okay, got it.
pre-stage of this.
Okay, so you mentioned that we have to issue an oath.
Hmm.
I know from reports that people have told me that there are people um, at these expungement fairs who tell the notaries, don't use your journal. We don't have time for that. And don't issue an oath. We don't have time for that. I'm glad you mentioned the journal because the law says if you keep a journal, it needs to be one complete journal, consecutive journal. You can't skip pages and you can't skip notarizations. So for anyone to tell a notary not to use their journal, they're asking the notary to break the law. Okay, so if you keep a journal, keep a journal. If you don't keep a journal, that's on you. I keep a journal because it protects me. The other thing you mentioned was an oath, and I have had notaries call me from expungement fairs and almost in tears saying, I know I have to give you an oath. They're telling me I don't. Listen, no one can tell you how to do your job, especially don't let somebody tell you how to do your job wrong. And when
Correct.
they're saying don't keep a journal and you keep a journal, they're asking you to break the law. And when they say don't issue an oath, we don't have time for that, they're asking you to break the law. So I noticed that in this notarial block, it says literally subscribed and sworn to before me on the date.
Yes.
Those are words that you're looking for in a notarial block to know you have to issue an oath. So there are
Yes.
three types of notarization. There's acknowledgement, there's jurat, and there's witnessing. This would be a jurat, and that's where you swear to the contents of the document. So anybody who's watching this, if you think that you don't have to issue an oath, you do, because it can go sideways for you as the notary if you don't issue an oath. So the law says when notarizing a jurat, a verbal oath is required by law. This is the law right here. Michigan compiled laws 55.300A, section 40A.21 says failure to administer an oath or affirmation as required by law can result in suspension or revocation of certificate of appointment or a civil fine, restitution to an injured person, a letter of censure, loss of commission. That is verbatim from the law. So that part in red, as required by law, says this. It's right there. It's been around since 1961. The usual mode, oh wait, let me go back. Act 236 of 1961, 600.1432, Section 1. The usual mode of administering oaths now practiced in this state by the person who swears holding up the right hand shall be observed in all cases in which an oath may be administered by law except as otherwise provided by law. The oath shall commence you do solemnly swear or affirm. So your oath has to start with that. And I am going to assume that the best way to do this oath is that you do solemnly swear or affirm that the contents of this document are true and you're signing of your own free will.
Right.
They need to verbally respond. Now, where it says, except as otherwise provided by law, they're talking about physical incapabilities. So maybe their arms don't work, or maybe they don't have that arm, or they cannot speak. So in those cases, obviously, it would be an issue. But in all cases, we need to be issuing an oath where it says that subscribed and sworn. So I wanted to make sure to cover that so that we don't have people out there not issuing oaths.
Yeah. I just want to make note of one thing, Leslie.
Okay.
Just for me, I normally get with the client. I'll have them sign the journal. I'll
Mhm.
look at the form. I will have them take the oath prior to the signing,
Mhm.
and then I will have them sign the document. And the reason I do that is because if they refuse to take the oath, then guess what?
You shouldn't
There's
sign.
no notarization going on. So,
That is exactly how it's supposed to go, Leonard. You're doing a great job.
well, I appreciate you for just allowing me to just kind of give some tips to the team and whatever notaries that are out there. And I wish them the best of luck of doing expungement events.
I'm so glad that you had the experience and you were willing to teach the Michigan Notary Association about this. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.